everybody. This is Jiro here, and I got a comment asking if I was gonna make Deku a spider pug, like or Spider Ham, I think it was. I remember because Spider-Man always gets turned into like strange animals. I'm not gonna be doing anything like that yet with this what if, like that. But I did have an interesting idea for this what if, and I don't know if people would like it or hate it. But anyways, when we last left off, Deku and Jiro actually fought All Might, and they actually did beat him in the teachers versus students. Now I believe after this, I believe what I need to do is the arc is the con- confrontation between the heroes and villains, and the Mirio Toga arc where he just bodies 1A. Now, Deku and Toga? No, crap, different what if. Oh god. Deku and Deku and Jiro, they are actually really happy that they have gotten this strong. And Jiro's happy that she's actually been able to master her core. She's actually gotten a better hold on One For All. Because of that, she's actually stronger than she's ever fought before. And not just that, but she's also very happy because Deku's essentially helped her find somebody that she can truly feel like herself with. Now, they're actually doing some training, and how they're doing this training is they were able to get a special license to use their quirks outside of school. Actually, no, they're just doing this right now. They're just swinging around the city with their black whips and the spider webs. They're both doing that, and Deku's actually teaching her how to put momentum into her body and actually carry herself further. And she's actually gotten quite good at this. Granted, she can't stick to any surface like Deku's webs, but she can still like somewhat control it. She can control it better than Deku could in canon. She doesn't do that whole black spider suit or one for all suit I've heard people talk about online. But let's say she can at least make it like she can sharpen it whenever she does shoot it, so it's more like a harpoon. What I mean by that is whenever it does go onto a building and it starts to come down, it would actually sink into the cement so she can actually not slip off of it. But anyways, after that, they're doing a bit more of this training, and Deku and Jiro are actually having a competition. They're trying to see who can get to UA faster. Now then, they would say that Jiro would say that the winner has to do whatever the loser says, or the loser has to do whatever the winner says. Deku would say that doesn't really seem fair because she's gonna lose. She would then tell Deku that that's not going to happen, and she would immediately jump off the ledge. Because they were probably standing on, let's say, a very big apartment building, because they did actually quite make their way downtown quite a bit. But after that, Deku would immediately just follow after her. And he would just start leaning forward and just falling. Like, if you've ever played Assassin's Creed, he's basically doing that fall, but he's actually sitting down, so he just leaps off. But he puts his hands out that way and actually does catapult himself through the air. Now he'd actually fly past Jiro, and she would see this, and she'd actually start charging up One For All. And the sound waves in her feet. She's essentially using all three of her quirks at once. And she's actually starting to swing through a bit more. And she's actually thinking that this might have actually been a good idea. That this way she can actually train all three of her quirks and her actual control over them. Plus, it's actually quite hard to do, so that makes it even better. Now, as she's actually swinging, a portal would open up behind Deku, and she'd essentially fly into it. Deku would have been able to see her disappear because he would have heard her shout his name and then disappear. This is whenever Deku he would be very confused, then he'd just try and make his way to UA as fast as he can. And while he's doing this, he's actually calling some of the teachers and everyone like that, and trying to ask them what's going on. Whenever they do get whenever Deku does get to UA, he would actually bust through Principal Nezu's window, saying that this isn't good, this isn't good. He thinks the League of Villains took Jiro because they were swinging through the city and she disappeared. She doesn't know what happened, but it looked like Kirigiri's portals back during the USJ. Nezu, he would understand what Deku's saying, but he would tell him to slow down because he's essentially in a panic. Deku would say that he can't slow down because he needs to go find her. This is whenever he would actually run into Class 1A and ask Momo if if she still has that tracker that she put on the Nomu. She would say yes and that she gave it to All Might, but he'd ask her for one, saying that there's no time. He needs to go get Jiro. As soon as Class 1A heard this and Aizawa heard this, everyone would just start calling in every pro hero they can just to try and raid the villain base. Now then, eventually every pro hero would be able to get to talk about it and get free, but free time to actually go get All For One. But this is when All Might would tell Deku that you need to calm down. I understand the situation is very dire, but from the way you keep acting, if you see whoever took her, you might kill them. Deku would say he won't kill them, but he will teach them a lesson. And as he says this, he actually has a very sinister look on his face. All Might would say that he's seen that look on his face. He saw it every day after his master died in the mirror. Deku would say, what does he mean by this? All Might would say that, don't you remember? I told young Jiro I was quirkless before I got one for all. Deku would be surprised by this, but ask, so you inherited the quirk also? That makes sense. Well, you did say you were the eighth successor. That does kind of ring a bell now. Well, that kind of does make more sense now. But All Might would then explain his old master and how she died to a villain. And that villain is actually All For One. Now then, after that does happen, Deku and All Might, they would essentially be the ones who raid the villain base. But they're going to the one where they think they're going to the bar. And every other hero is going to the bigger one with the target on it, where the actual Nomu are hiding. This is whenever All For One would make his presence. Not All For One. This is whenever Deku would actually just start. He would actually have taken the guitar with him because Jiro's support item, and she didn't have it. It was still at UA. So the whole time while they were actually preparing and waiting for night to fall for this operation, Deku was actually just playing a couple songs that him and Jiro made. But he would get mad. He would have gotten mad and got to the point where he would have actually started punching something. And someone would actually have to calm him down because it's actually kind of shaking the entire building. All Might would have eventually calmed him down, but told him to save it for the fight. Now, cut back to Deku. Deku is actually he's knocking on the door, and he's asking if he can be let in to have a drink. Now, as soon as this happened, he's actually wearing a black suit. People are asking him why he's here, and he would then say, "Isn't it obvious?" He would then rip off his mask and actually leap at Kirigiri, saying that he's here for the bastard who stole his girl. Kirigiri would be confused whenever Deku leaps on him, and as soon as he actually subdues Kirigiri by punching him in the face, All Might would have actually come in and actually threw Shigaraki out a window. Along with the rest of the heroes, and well, actually the rest of the police force, coming in and subduing the rest of the League of Villains. Now then, All For One would have teleported these two away, but whenever he does, cut to Deku actually watching this, and him just getting super angry, and then All Might telling him to follow him. Deku and All Might would then begin jumping over the buildings and swinging over. This is whenever Deku, he would be the one who jumps in against All For One instead of All Might. Whenever he does do this, this would actually kind of surprise All For One. Because this kid punched stronger than Prime All Might. He would state that the kid's quirk is very impressive, but he lacks self-control. Deku would say that that was just him holding back. If you want me to get serious, just ask me to. He's here for Jiro. He's demanding to have her back. All For One can call him an insolent child, saying that, this is why most heroes don't get married. They always think they're invincible until you find that crack in their armor. And it looks like I found yours. You were gonna carry that torch, but you held it so high that the flame burned you in the face. Now, I don't know if that was good or bad, but I hope it sounded good on the mic. I can do a very good voice impression, like just deepen it up, but I might not try that again. Anyways, after this, Deku and All Might are fighting off All For One, and any time All For One would actually try using that super giant thing on his arm, Deku would actually be the one retaliating. All Might would eventually buff down, and Deku, he would just get angry at this because he couldn't even save All Might. All Might's secret was revealed, and he just feel enraged. Now this is whenever the extra arms grow back. But this time they don't stop. Deku's getting hairier. This is whenever Deku would actually turn into a giant man spider, or Spider-Man. He still has his legs, but he's just running at All For One and fighting him. All For One is kind of screaming because Deku's unlocked his taser webs, where he can send electric shocks through them. He's using poison webs. He's firing venom at him, and he's even disappearing from the battlefield for brief seconds. Now, the reason he's disappearing is because he's actually turning invisible. He's doing that. He's blitzing All For One. He's getting around him. And All For One is confused because anytime he tries to predict where Deku is, he's always somewhere else. He would think he's in front of him. No, he's above him. He thinks he's above him. He's behind him. He thinks he's behind him. He's below him. And this is whenever All For One would actually try doing that whole he's gonna kill everyone behind All Might. This is whenever Deku would actually get in front of his fist and stop it with all eight of his arms, and then begin to rip it off All For One's joint. Deku would actually tackle All For One to the ground, screaming in his face. He just keeps screaming Jiro over and over again, losing himself in madness. This is whenever he would have actually put his foot on the joint of All For One's arm and actually just press down as much as he can, hearing All For One scream. He would have then just started ripping it off with all 8 of his arms. All Might is seeing this, and he is both impressed and horrified at what Deku is doing. This is whenever Jiro would actually get on the battlefield, and she would actually see Deku. Now, Deku has essentially just started ripping All For One apart. He's ripping off fingers, he's ripping off limbs. He has torn out one of All For One's eyes. He's even broken his jaw so he can barely make a sound. He's even shattered a couple of his ribs, and that's not even very helpful anymore. Because All For One just keeps spitting blood over and over again, trying to beg for his life. And all you see is just the pure look of terror in his eyes as Deku was actually about to go in for the kill. But he would stop. The cameras are all focused on him, and the reason Deku stopped was because Jiro actually... She came up behind him and she's actually just hugging him. She's telling him that she's okay. She was saved. That she got out in a way, but she's just been trying to keep them off her tail. Because as soon as she was teleported, she was actually in the bar, but she would have actually been able to blast sound waves out and actually get to the roof and actually swing away. But we had Mr. Compress. Not Mr. Compress. Actually, no, I think I let Mr. Compress get away. If not, Mr. Compress got away. He compressed himself into a marble, decompressed himself, and buried himself. I don't know. I've just been going at a very fast pace just so that the story sounds better. But I'm still keeping it to where you guys can keep up. Anyways, this is whenever Deku, he would turn around and he actually has the stingers on his face, the 8 eyes, and just the arms covered in hair. This is whenever Jiro would actually tell Deku that she's here, she's still with him. Everything will be okay because she is here. That he needs to calm down. And whenever she does say this, Deku, he would have just came in, he would have just grabbed her and hugged her. He would then just start just sink to his knees as he looks at himself. He's looking at his arms and he's just they're just covered in blood. He would then go back to normal, albeit with holes in his shirt and a lot of blood. Now, after this, yeah, after this, let's cut to. Ow. Let's cut to back in Class 1A. People are actually asking Jiro about what happened, and this is where I'll get into further detail. All For One would be saying that, well, she would then say that whenever they teleported her back into this wherever they were at in the city, they were able to keep her restrained for a minute, but you would have had Dobby. No. Kirigiri, he would have actually been able to keep it to where she could probably get one of her arms cut off in the portal. So that would probably be a way he could restrain her, but she would have eventually actually took the risk and pulled her hand through, blasting Dobby and everyone with sound waves, and then immediately using Black Whip and One for All to try and blast her way out of there. Because she's able to go at 55%, so she would just bounce all over the room, shaking the entire place. Eventually, she would have actually gotten out of a window and start swinging away. Yes. Anyways, she would explain that after she got away, the portal guy actually kept trying to catch her by keeping up the opening up portals over and over again. Until she sat in a very public place. Well, she eventually walked into a hero agency and hid there for a minute. Because I want to say they did not have the ability to get surveillance cameras of hero agencies. Because they'd probably be on a different server and or private servers. But, now then. She would say that she actually walked into someone's agency, and whenever she did, he actually introduced himself as Sir Night Eye. She would have had to explain to him, but as soon as she would have started talking, he would just tell her to come with him. He would have actually gotten a bit of things arranged for her to get back to UA faster, but as she was on her way there, that's whenever the whole fight with All For One would have started. And that's whenever she was able to get onto the battlefield, and Sir Night Eye told her that she needed to tell Deku these words. They would ask Deku what these words mean to him, and he would say that growing up, All Might said those words, and they always inspired him to be a hero. So everyone would be really impressed because Deku actually did answer this without hesitating. But now then, they would also try and ask him about that spider thing he did. He would say that he doesn't know what happened. He just kind of everything felt weird for a minute. All he felt was just red and rage. His vision turned red and everything just started morphing. They would then show a picture of what Deku turned into. And this is whenever he'd actually kind of freak out. But as he's freaking out, this is whenever Mirio would walk into the classroom along with the big three. Anyways, sorry to leave you guys off on a cliffhanger like that, but I'm going to be leaving this episode here. Now, my Yu Yu Hakusho What If, I'm going to be resuming that after the next episode the final episode of this part until I catch up with season 4 is completely released and out. Anyways, I also have a series called What If Deku had 10 quirks I'm working on. I've actually come up with quite a lot of quirks, and other YouTubers have done some of these. Well, Samuel Zane has done basically a Puppet Master quirk and an Immortality quirk. And I actually kind of made another quirk. Well, one of the quirks I have on this list is actually for a villain, but I also created this other quirk called Wave Rider, I believe I called it. And you're essentially able to. It's like light surfing. You can basically, anywhere there's sunlight, you can turn yourself into it and actually go anywhere. But if it's in a shadow, as soon as you go into that shadow, you'll turn back into a human. But you're basically moving at the speed of light whenever you do this. So it's pretty OP. Plus, I believe I called it Fear. This quirk is gonna be my favorite one because there's a specific name I've come up with for people with this many quirks. And I'll be explaining that further on in the next video, or the video where I do that series. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and please tell me what you guys think about it in the comments below.